filling in for Trey Harden. Good morning, Stephen.
Hey, look, Scaramucci got traded at the trade deadline, right? He, he got traded for a couple of used baseball gloves and, a water cooler.
So Scaramucci lost his job before he was ever really hired, and Sean Spicer still has his job that he was fired from.
Look, we can joke about this, but it's pretty serious in terms of the running of the White House, running of the country. Scaramucci and General John Flynn, the Boston Irishman who was retired four-star Marine general, you're talking about a culture clash. This is Red Sox Nation versus the Yankees, right? I mean, this is New England versus New York, but it was far more serious than that. It was a military man deeply offended by the profanity and the disrespect. I mean, military men swear, but the disrespect that Scaramucci showed for the office of the presidency, speaking as communications director in that profanity-laced tirade in New Yorker. So the real question here, McGraw, is can John Kelly rein in the president? After all, the real question here is not who sits outside the Oval Office, it's who sits inside the Oval Office. And President Trump has shown himself, as you and I have talked many times, to be at his core an impulsive, reckless, undisciplined person who is his own communications director, his own chief of staff. And so Kelly's got the biggest problem Kelly has is not dealing with the White House staff, it's dealing with the president himself.
It's a good point, and one in which I think the analysis of this misses, and that is this is a step in the right direction by the Trump administration, or at least bringing some type of semblance and some type of adult in the room, so that Scaramucci clearly shouldn't continue on in his role if that's the way he's going to act, and this is a step away from the edge.
I think so, or at least a potential step away from the edge. But, General Kelly is used to a military chain of command. He's used to people saluting him. Are the Republican senators on Capitol Hill going to salute him when he says you got to vote for the health care bill? Are Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump going to salute him when they go through the back door to go see their father? Is Stephen Bannon going to salute a guy who is very close to the president and has almost unlimited personal access? So there are a lot of power centers swirling around this White House, and there are a lot of power centers in Washington who don't necessarily respond to military discipline. But in the end, one of the questions is, does Flynn, confiscate the president's cell phone so he can't tweet at all hours? Does he cover up all the TV sets so the president can't compulsively watch cable TV and go off anytime someone insults him? I mean, you can change the chairs and you can change the personnel, but the one thing you have not changed is a 71-year-old president deeply committed to his own way of doing things. It was very successful as a businessman, and give him credit, it was very successful as a candidate. It clearly has not been very successful as a president over the first 6 months. His polling numbers are the lowest in history for any president at this stage. So does he learn from this?
Yeah.
It's the big question of the morning.
Yesterday, or I guess over the weekend, Vladimir Putin comes out and gives a slight to America, taking away some of the diplomats. What's interesting is that Donald Trump has tweeted about a lot less and tweeted to American citizens about lesser slights. So the fact that he hasn't taken to Twitter is interesting, at least, right? So far, so good that he's not having world diplomacy through Twitter since Kelly's been there.
Well, that's a very good point. And of course, Putin was reacting to legislation that Trump really didn't support. I mean, this bill tightening sanctions on Russia and basically tying the president's hands in terms of his ability to waive those sanctions. This is a bill that was huge bipartisan majorities in both houses of Congress. And the president didn't like this bill because it was in many ways contradicted his whole approach to Putin even before he was elected, which was to try to establish much warmer relationships. So Putin was reacting not to anything Trump had done, but to something the Congress had done. That put the president in an awkward position. But you're right. Maybe it's the first sign of some discipline. But let's not bet on this, because Donald Trump has, you and I have talked about this many times. People have predicted a Trump 2.0, a new Trump many times. Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Donald Trump still hasn't signed that sanctions bill. The White House has alluded to the fact that he's going to, but he still hasn't yet.
No, he hasn't. But, I think it would be, the margins were so huge that it would, his veto, if he vetoed it, it would immediately be overridden. And that's the kind of public humiliation I think that Donald Trump would shy away from. He doesn't like this bill. He doesn't want it. But he would like public humiliation even worse.
There you go.
And so he's got two bad choices.
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst. Have a good week. Talk to you next Monday.
Okay, pal.
628.